morning and welcome to this week's serving of Mickey Waffles, a Disney podcast where we cover everything from parks, movies and merchandise. My name is Sinead.
My name is Kate. Hi guys, how's it going?
I'm good, Kate. How are you?
I'm good. I was about to say Happy New Year. Don't know why. Just came at me.
We did that last week. Although it's annoying because in work it's kind of transitioned from the Happy New Year, hope you had a nice and I found myself typing this as well, which was making me cringe. I hope you had a nice, albeit quite strange break. But now everybody's transitioning into the is it still okay to say Happy New Year? And I'm like, claw my eyes out, please.
See, the problem is there's some people in work who I haven't seen, or like some clients who I haven't seen since the new year, and they're like, oh hi, they're like, Happy New Year, haven't seen you since before Christmas, so I guess. And I'm like, yeah, sure.
No, it's just happy lockdown.
Happy lockdown, woo!
How's your week been, Kate?
Yeah, it's been fun. Every week we come to this point where I have to try and remember what I've done the week previous. And I always forget. What have we been doing? Haven't watched any more Star Wars. Okay. Because our evenings haven't worked out with enough time to watch a Star Wars and then watch something else.
Fair.
With like having to do dinners and stuff, it's just not worked out. So we're still no closer on Star Wars, but we have started The Newsroom, which is another series written by Aaron Sorkin. Really on the Aaron Sorkin train. I'd like to say he's a great guy, but he was a cocaine addict, so... but he's written some top-notch TV. We're on episode 8 of The Newsroom.
Okay.
I say this, Ed's already watched it all. And I was like, I feel bad. We just keep watching series that you've already seen and I haven't. And he's like, yeah, but they're good series. So we can watch them as many times as you want. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. As long as you're fine with it. And then also there's a new season of AP Bio that's come onto Now TV / Sky Comedy. So we'll definitely be up on that. None of this is Disney related. Disney related this week, at all. I've mostly just been working, not working, reading, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
What are you reading at the minute?
At the minute, I'm reading Red, White, and Royal Blue, which is one of the books that was lent to me by my friend Sally. And it is about Prince Henry of the royal family and one of the first sons of the United States, who is the son of the first female president who came after Obama. Okay. So it's set pretty recently. And it turns out, not a spoiler because it says it on the back, but it turns out that they're both gay and they both fall in love.
Oh, cute.
But then they're like, how can we be in love when we're both so prominent and da-da-da? But anyway, I've nearly finished it now. The thing is, the chapters are huge. The chapters are 15 to 20 pages long, which is a lot for a chapter, if you know what I mean. Yeah. I'll happily read half a book in one sitting, but sometimes you're like, oh, I just need this chapter to end so I can go make something or just go to the bathroom. Do you know what I mean?
You need those milestones.
So this will be my second book of the year. I have a Goodreads and I think I've set myself up for 50 books this year because I had a loose target last year and just completely went off the wires with it and couldn't even remember how many books I read. But I'm hoping that Goodreads will do me well and I'll be able to keep on track with it. Yeah. But yeah, I'm really in the YA vibe. I'm always in the YA vibe, to be honest. But the book I read before this was chick flick rom-com. And not YA. They're kind of the only two books I read. Or then sometimes I really pivot to a very factual book about feminism or history or a very specific period of time. And then I'm like, cozy YA.
That's fair.
So yeah, that's pretty much been me. I feel like I have something else to say, but I really don't think I do. What about you?
Basically, all I have been doing is, I'm still working. I'm still working from home full time. Been going for walks been doing it about 6 times a week, which considering normally I was not doing that, this has been great. And just doing copious amounts of online shopping, if I'm being completely honest.
I feel that.
Yeah. Yep. As much as Kate has a problem with buying jumpers, I have a problem with ordering stuff from Cakeworthy. So I have my Cakeworthy order arrived today, and I'm wearing my brand new Hocus Pocus pajamas, which thrill me no end. And other than that, I've not really been doing a whole lot. I've been watching Drag Race, which is great. Drag Race season 11, thoroughly enjoying that. But I have to say, Drag Race UK, and particularly this season of Drag Race UK, is absolutely fucking amazing. It's so, you should watch this season. I think you would really enjoy this season. I know you kind of can take or leave Drag Race.
Yeah.
But this season is so great. I listened to our lovely pals over from Once Upon a Scream. They now have a Drag Race podcast that they're doing at the minute called Once Upon a Queen. We love a play on words.
That's what that is.
Yes. And love it. This season of Queens, I'm so obsessed with all of them. There are 2 Scottish queens and I absolutely adore the 2 of them. Like, I'm so here for the Drag Race UK. I think it is fan-bloody-tastic.
Where does one watch Drag Race UK?
I think you can watch it on BBC 3. However, you can also watch it on WoW Presents Plus, of which I'll give you access to after.
Ooh, cheap little access.
Probably shouldn't put it out into the ether, but I feel like everybody has access to my WoW Presents Plus account, so it's fine.
Okay, great.
It's basically like Netflix for drag.
Oh, wow.
It's all drag shows.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, high vibe.
Shows in and around the
drag
RuPaul
universe
sphere. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like Untucked. That's another RuPaul related show that isn't directly Drag Race.
There you go. Okay, look at you.
I am with it. I am a white straight female. I'm with it.
There you go. But yeah, I think so far my favorite queen, who I think is kind of everybody's queen, is a queen called Lawrence Chaney, who's from Glasgow, and they had to do a look that was inspired by their hometown. And as she was walking down the runway, she was narrating, and she was like, Glaswegian people aren't just known for not knowing how to flush the toilet after they take a shit, referencing that hilarious video of those 2 little girls where their ma comes in and screams at them for not flushing the toilet. And it just...
That's such a niche video.
But the fact that that's like, she like just referenced this video on the BBC, just as bluntly as I've just put it, is my favorite thing.
BBC 3. You can do whatever the fuck you want, BBC 3.
This is very true. This is very true. But would highly recommend watching Drag Race UK, even if you're not really a Drag Race person. It's just such good, wholesome content. And I have to say, I think Ben and Mikey touched on this, UK queens are a lot more entertaining. US queens are very like polished and very like put together and Instagrammable, but UK queens are just funny. And it's the same for Irish queens. Like, Irish queens are bloody hilarious.
And do you think that has to do with the fact that you're Irish and Ben and Mikey are English, and that you vibe with this style more?
Probably, yeah. Probably. But I think I don't know, I feel like there's a lot more humor ingrained into it. Again, whereas the US tend to take themselves very seriously.
Yeah, I do think that's
lighthearted.
Yeah, I think that's a very cultural thing.
Yeah. But if you are watching Drag Race UK, I will leave a link to where you can listen to Ben and Mikey's recaps. It's great.
Wow thing.
I won't be giving you access to that. Can't be giving that out to everybody. But if you can't watch it, you can go listen to Ben and Mikey talk you through an episode. There you go. That's the next best thing.
Hey, look at that now.
So yeah, that's pretty much everything for my week. We are awaiting a guest that is going to come at some stage.
It's like that really made me remember something now, but I actually can't put my finger on it, about like, we're waiting this. I'll never remember it. It's fine. Don't worry about it. We're literally like, as we're recording, we're waiting for someone. They'll arrive. They'll pop in. It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. It does mean that we won't really get to do the guest star Tuesday, I think, but that's fine. We'll survive without it.
I'll still say it.
There we go. So, whilst we await said guest, shall we get on with a bit of news?
It's all good. It's all good news.
Yeah. Where's the kazoo?
Our main story tonight, temporary closure. Don't we love to see it? Due to the prevailing conditions in Europe, Disneyland Paris will not reopen on the 13th of February as initially planned. If conditions permit, we will reopen Disneyland Paris on the 2nd of April 2021 and will welcome reservations from that date forward. Given the current Given the current context, our plans continue to evolve, but please know that we will make every effort to share with you any updates as soon as it is possible. Please check back on the website for regular updates. We thank you for your continued loyalty and understanding during this difficult period.
Yeah. Do we think they're going to open? Then?
See, I don't know. And at this point, I've kind of stopped speculating about this stuff because, like, if you take Ireland 3 months ago, we were doing really well. And it was like...
we were the worst in the world.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, we were doing really well. We were down to, like, maybe not 3 months ago, maybe 3.5 months ago. Time is a mystery to me. We were down to, like, what, 3 cases? 4 cases a day. We could go to a restaurant together. I was allowed to stay over at your house. Like, I could breathe the same air as you. Do you know what I mean?
She didn't. She would have been allowed, but she didn't.
What do you mean?
When did you stay in my house?
For your birthday.
That was September.
Yeah, months ago. I told you time eludes me.
Okay, fair. I thought you were talking about like November time, and I was like, what?
No, like back when we were doing well.
Oh yeah, true.
That's why I said maybe more than 3 months. I can't quite remember.
Okay, my bad.
I'm talking like where we were at our best, and we were like, guys, if we can keep this going, we'll hit the vaccine, and then we'll boom, eradication, and now we're currently the worst in the world. So, so I just don't know. The rate, I actually don't know what the rate of vaccinations in France is, which is an important question in relation to this issue.
I feel like in the Disney Parks and Beyond group chat, I can't remember who was saying it, but somebody was saying that seemingly France is being quite cautious about rolling out the vaccine and doesn't seem to be...
Really?
They're not Israel. Israel are just hoofing it into people at an alarming rate.
Correct.
Not an alarming rate. I would...
Well, no, it's not alarming.
Ireland, please follow suit. It's the only thing I want you to follow suit with Israel on, but if you could, that'd be great.
Ever.
But yeah, seemingly France is being quite... They don't seem to be massively urgent about getting the vaccine into people.
Yeah. So like, I wonder, April 2nd is obviously a timeline date that they have for how they see the cases progressing over time and whatever.
Yeah.
But you just can't guess those things anymore because people are so fucking stupid. So I don't know. I'd like to say they will open in April because they were open when there were still quite high cases.
Yeah.
And the only way you could get there from Ireland was quarantining when you came back for 2 weeks. Like, it still wasn't easy to do. So I would be hopeful that they will. And I know that they still have like very heavy, like gotta wear your masks, sani stations, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So I've no problem with them opening in April, but I just don't know if they will.
Yeah.
And
I know. So the way you were able to, especially for annual pass holders, you had to book access to the park. Seemingly that first week is booked. Now, I don't know what level of capacity they're planning to reopen on. It could be as low as like 10%. I have no idea. But seemingly that first, or at least the first few days, seems to be booked out already.
I mean, like, if I lived in France, I probably would. Like,
if a plane was not involved, I would have gone.
Yeah, see, the thing is, I don't view the situation in Disneyland Paris as the same situation as Walt Disney World Florida. Because I feel like Disneyland Paris only opens when it's safe to do so at a certain level. And as we've seen, it closes when it's not safe anymore. Whereas in Walt Disney World, there could literally be a fire going on right outside the door and they wouldn't care. So I do view them as very separate situations, even though they come under the same company.
Yeah. I also feel like the attitude of guests is very different because on Facebook, I'm part of a Disneyland Paris Facebook group and I'm part of a Walt Disney World annual pass holder group. I'm not a Walt Disney World annual pass holder, but I like to see what's going on. And the attitude in the two is very different. People are wearing masks. People are like, you never see posts about people being like, do you think I could get away with not wearing a mask? Or here's this sneaky photo I managed to take without my mask on. You never see that. And I don't know if it's just the admins of the particular DLP group are very quick at like taking that stuff down. If people do that, I don't know. But that is constantly a thing in the Disney World group of people quickly taking their masks off to take pictures or saying, do you think I could get away with not wearing a mask if I have this or I have this or if I have this is this, can I get away with wearing this type of a mask? And it's kind of the American group anyways, just from what I've seen, and it's one particular group, it's one kind of subsect of people. It's a lot of people trying to get around the current restrictions in whatever way, shape or form they can. Yeah. Whereas in Paris, it's just kind of like, I'm going to follow the restrictions, but is it worth me going with the restrictions? Which is they're two very different conversations.
Two very different conversations. Yeah, you're right.
So I also think, we've said it before, DLP don't give a flying shit. No, like, if you are going to fuck around, if you're going to take your mask off, if you're not going to follow restrictions, DLP don't give a shit. And DLP don't have that same thing where in America, you can get sued if you ask somebody what's wrong with them and why they can't wear a mask. DLP don't give a shit. DLP are like, if you can't wear a mask, don't be here. Yeah. Like, bitch, bye. Like, they do not care.
No. And, but even, like, it's really weird seeing Walt Disney World at the moment on social media because it's a mix of, like, cast members being like, thank you so much for coming to Walt Disney World. Like, you're keeping me employed. I have a job, blah, blah, blah. Cast members being like, please remember I'm a human. And then guests being like, bloody, bloody, fuck, I hate this. And it's just really weird. And it's very hard to grasp an opinion on the situation. Like, there was a video uploaded recently onto, I assume, Instagram, and then I found it on TikTok, or it could have been the other way around, of a woman shouting at this cast member who can't have been any older than either of us, probably younger. Right. And she wasn't wearing a mask. The woman wasn't wearing a mask properly. And the cast member was like, can you please put on your mask? Because they were queuing up for something outside. And she was like, can you please put on your mask? It's mandatory in the parks, blah, blah, blah. And she just like kept screaming at her. And she kept calling her like little girl. And she was like, who are you to say this to me? And blah, blah. And she was like, it's just my job. Like, mom, I'm doing my job. And she's like, oh yeah, your job? And she's like, yes, my job. Can you please stop shouting at me? And everyone in the comments is like, why the fuck didn't she get banned? Like, that's disgraceful but human behavior. That's ridiculous. And it's just like, stop shouting at people. Like, that's so unnecessary. And it just shows how badly cast members in Walt Disney World can be treated. And I do think that's where cast members get the most hate, is in Florida. Mm-hmm. And it's so sad. And it makes me want to love them even more whenever I get over there.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's just the attitude of guests, because with Disneyland California, we'll get onto that in a little bit. A lot of the guests that go into Disneyland California are locals, are annual pass holders, are in the parks once a month, once a week. They go there regularly. They know these cast members. They know a lot of them by name. They know them to see. Like, they are invested, and they're very much invested in you are helping to keep Walt's legacy. And that's very much seems to be the attitude overall. Obviously not for everybody. There's dickheads everywhere, but that tends to be the main kind of thing. Like we've said before, Disneyland Paris don't give a shit. So if you're going to shout at a cast member, they'll shout back at you. Or they'll hoof you at the park. They have no qualms.
We've seen attitude on cast members. Yeah.
And we've experienced it firsthand. We've said it before, we are ex-cast members. We are never the kind of people to get snippy with a cast member. Ever. But we have had cast members shout at us for things that we didn't even know we were doing wrong. So DLP has a different breed. But I think
thought I was going to cry that day.
Yeah, it was rough. But then I think but I think where the guest mindset kind of shifts in Disney World is for a lot of people, Disney World is like the fucking be all and end all. Like it's that dream vacation that people save for. And that is because it's so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So people are like, I am paying thousands of dollars to be here. Everything should be sunshine and rainbows. And if it's not, it's your fucking fault. And I'm going to tell you about it. And it's like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. So yeah, then do you want to talk about the other Disneyland Paris days, or do you want me to just keep going?
So obviously with the park being closed, the hotels are staying closed for a little bit longer. So the park is opening up on the 2nd of April. So on the 2nd of April, we will also have the Santa Fe and Newport Bay reopening, which I find interesting because I feel like the last time the hotels opened the day before the park reopened so that guests could already be there, but they are not doing that this time, which is interesting. So Santa Fe and Newport Bay will be open from the 2nd of April. Then from the 1st of July, Davy Crockett Ranch and Hotel Cheyenne will be reopening. Sequoia Lodge is opening on October 23rd, which I feel like is kind of peak Sequoia Lodge time. Like that autumnal into winter time.
Yeah.
By the fire at the bar.
That's when it blooms.
Cozy vibes. Marvel Hotel is reopening when the renovations have finished. That is as vague as they have been. No one knows. I'm like, how is this still being worked on?
Because they definitely fucking sent a bunch of people home and are now like, oh, yeah, cool. Forgot about this. My bad.
Yeah. So that'll be opening whenever. And then I think the kind of face crack of this whole announcement is that the Disneyland Hotel will not be reopening. And we've got this from one of the Disneyland Paris groups, and they are part of the Inside Ears group of people. The Disneyland Hotel is expected to be shut for at least 2 years, which if for any of our maths buffs out there, Disneyland Paris is 30 next year, which means the Disneyland Hotel will not be open, which I find mind-boggling because if anyone watched any of the vlogs from the 25th, people paid thousands to stay in the Disneyland Hotel the night before the 25th anniversary, so that because they had people waiting at the gates and then they would let people through up to the turnstiles. But if you're staying in the Disneyland Hotel, you already have a time advantage on those people because you are within the gates. You don't have to wait to be let into the gates. And if you're staying in Castle Club, you're fucking laughing because you just get brought straight down to those turnstiles. You get to go on the magical lift that Andrea spoke about. We'll leave that particular episode in the show notes. But like you get right at those turnstiles, and like Castle Club ain't cheap at the best of times. Let alone like every single room in Castle Club was booked out for the 20th anniversary. Even that bloody ridiculous suite that has the massive like dining table and is like 30 grand a night, that was booked out. So the fact that the most expensive and most desirable hotel for the biggest celebration they have had, with all of these concierge rooms, 2 of the most expensive restaurants, isn't going to be open for the 30th. Like,
yeah, it's just it does make you wonder what's happened. Like, I assume this wasn't the plan. I assume they didn't expect to have the hotel closed for the 30th.
Yeah. However, and we spoke about this a little bit on Disney Parks and Beyond, and Nick made a very good point. If they had started the renovations on this when the resort had to close March last year, if this restoration takes 2 years, do you know what? That's right before the 30th anniversary. So they could have had it done.
Yeah, I wonder, did they not really realize what was happening until it was too late?
True. But then, I mean, I've not seen the rooms in the Disneyland Hotel. I've only seen the communal areas. Or there was that one time that we went out the wrong exit and nearly got trapped because we went over to the side of the rooms and couldn't get out. We had to just wait for a guest to let us out. But so I've not seen the rooms. I don't know how badly they are in need of repair. But I would, if it were me, I would have just left it. Like, leave it even for like the month up until the 30th.
Yeah.
That month around it, and then put it into refurb. Like, make your bank, make your money off the 30th, and then put it into refurb.
Yeah. You just don't know. There must be something. There must be like a contract or like an agreement or something.
Yeah.
Because I assume they wouldn't have done it unless they had to.
True. I think
like,
it was...
maybe they were going to lose their contract on the guys refurbing it or something like.
Yeah, that's what, because we were having a discussion about it. I think PDAB said, because you know the way the French government are weird about like times that you can do things and stuff like that. So maybe they had maybe they needed certain planning permission to be able to do this particular refurb, and that was going to run out or something like that. But I find it bananas. I also I don't know if the likes of Cafe Fantasia, Inventions, and California Grill are going to stay open, or are they just going to shut the whole hotel down?
That's what I was wondering as well. When they say, when they say closed, do they mean you can't book a room, or do they mean you cannot enter the building?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Well, also, they're not starting again. Sorry, just before we leave this, they're not starting the Disneyland Hotel until the Marvel Hotel is finished. So it's not even like they're starting it now.
Oh, I hadn't even copped that. Good.
They will be commencing their refurbishment once Marvel Hotel reopens. So if they're not done that yet, and that's not going to reopen until well, what's the latest day we have here? 23rd of October. If that's not going to open until at least after the 23rd of October, what the fuck?
Good.
Do you know what I mean?
If this ain't a DLP refurb, I don't know what is.
Is it going to be closed forever?
Probably.
They're just going to knock it down.
I mean, you would hope not.
That's what they meant. They were like, goodbye.
When do you think the Disneyland Hotel is going to reopen, Nick?
That doesn't work on a non-visual medium, Nick.
Konnichiwa. What I thought I'd do is I'd try that thing where someone's connected and they just talk, but they're muted. But I wasn't muted. It kind of backfired on me in a way.
Why didn't you just mute yourself?
Well, no, because that would have ruined the joke. So instead,
oh yeah, because I'm barrel laughs now.
Yeah, well, look, this is what happens. You invite me on, and chaos ensures. Sorry, what was the question?
When do you think the Disneyland Hotel is going to reopen?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, we're talking about Paris, right? So not quite as long as it would have been if this was Walt Disney World. I think that's probably
what.
Well, no. What I mean is, when Disney World's suddenly going to do something, it normally takes about 12 years, doesn't it?
Do you remember how long the train line was closed for in DLP?
I aged 20 years.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. With refurbs of hotels and stuff, they're normally pretty good. They're normally fairly to the date. The Hotel New York should have been reopened last year, and it obviously wasn't because of COVID, right? I honestly think that hotel would have opened last summer. It looked like it was running a little bit behind, but only by a couple of months. I think that would have opened up by the end of by the middle to the end of summer, easily.
Yeah.
So I think they're quite consistent when they say the train line, obviously, is the exception.
Manor. Autopia.
Now you're giving me an education. Yeah. The problem is with the Disneyland Hotel, and we discussed this a little bit on another podcast that I'm on far too many, is that it needs a big refurb. Like, it needs a real big refresh. And we don't know what the refresh is going to be. Are they going to keep it the same and just give it all a lick of paint? Or are they actually going to really update the decor? Because, yeah, the wallpaper's quite fun, but I wouldn't be amiss to seeing some new wallpaper in there. Do you know what I mean? So keep the scent. I like the scent of the Disneyland Hotel.
Oh, yeah.
Keep that going. But they're saying 2 years, right?
Yeah.
2 year refurb. 2.5, 3 years. I think it may go on a little bit longer, but I don't think it'll go on that much longer than it could possibly.
I was like, will it be?
Some maths.
I was like, I was like, how long until my 30th? Will we get there for my 30th?
I was wondering why you had to count on 3 fingers. Like that was, you know, I mean, look, I'm stupid, right? But even I was like, 3 fingers, really?
It helps, okay?
Okay, no, fair enough. I wish I had something to help me. So when I don't like to ask women their ages, obviously, because I'm no, I was going to say I'm a gentleman. That's not true. I've been told that that's wrong. So, but you would count on your fingers. So are we talking, 3-4 years away?
No, we're not. I'm 24, so I'll be 25 this June. So then I was like, how far away are we? What?
Because everyone's so much younger than me. I feel so old.
Sorry about that.
Apparently I made a noise getting up off the sofa tonight, and I was asked if I was actually 47 rather than 37. I'm like, yeah. So anyway, I'll be single soon. Come hit me up, ladies. Yeah, I mean,
maybe that's why she scalped you.
Yes, yeah, that's right, exactly. I think, yeah, I mean, it'll easily be back before your 30th. If you're talking 5 years.
Is that what we do now? Do we see if it's going to be back before my 30th?
If I was honestly Disneyland Paris right now, I'd be saying I want that hotel to be done as quickly as possible, and we've got an anniversary next year, right? Got an anniversary in 2022, a big one at that. It's a big anniversary. So I know they're saying it's going to be closed for 2 years, but it wouldn't surprise me if they had some of the hotel operational in time. I
wonder if they'll start with Castle Club and have Castle Club open, because that has its own separate entrance and exit.
Yeah, so it could get away with it, couldn't
and its own reception.
Yeah, it has everything separate. You just have to go up in that lift.
Yeah, I don't. It's that's what I would do. Like, I'd want it to be open for the anniversary. And we talked again. Not that I want to keep promoting Disney Parks and Beyond, another Disney podcast.
Who?
But I know no one listens. No one listens. No one that listens to this listens to that because they're smart. But it is something that people really have a real love for, and really want that to be open. I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. Like, I think it's a lovely looking hotel. I don't think the rooms look that great for the price. I think you are paying for the location much more than the quality of the hotel. And I suppose leading up to what we're going to talk about a bit later on, like, I don't always feel that the cost of the hotel justifies the experience in some ways. It's nice. I think the best bit about the Disneyland Hotel is looking around it or going to eat one of the nicer restaurants. I think the actual hotel itself is tired and dated and very overpriced. And I often feel that the people that sing its praises the loudest do so because it's almost like a gloat, a brag.
Do you believe these are the same people that walk around in their white robes and slippers through the Fantasia lobby?
Every time.
Let me tell you a story about the Disneyland Hotel and bloggers.
Ooh.
And I'm not gonna. People, get yourself your cup of tea because some tea is going to be spilled. I'm not going to spill all the tea. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to out people.
No, you don't need to do that.
They deny it anyway. But I do know that there was a group who would go 6 to 8 ways on a suite in the Disneyland Hotel. I'm not talking Castle Club. I'm not talking, the Sleeping Beauty suite or anything like that. I'm talking just a standard room. And they would take it in turns to either sleep on the floor or they'd have a cheaper hotel off property. And during the stay, they'd kind of swap out. So some people got to have the benefits of the room for certain times because that was the only way they could actually afford to stay there. Now, that's not slagging people off because it is expensive to stay there, right? But the thing is, I wouldn't go down that route. If I can't afford to stay there, if I can't justify it, I just don't stay there.
Yeah.
I don't go to such extreme lengths as to having to room share with far too many people just to say that I was there. And the reason for doing it is because they could then take their photos in the hotel room.
Yeah.
That's what it was, the bragging rights of this is where I am. You're there because you're splitting it like 8 ways and you're not staying there. You're allowed to be in there for so many hours.
You're passing through.
Exactly. It just, yeah. And I mean, the thing is, the problem is that when you see blogs or Instagram accounts or Twitter accounts, and you see those photos, if you look up to those people, and people do, that's why they're called influencers, right? People do see these things and want to aspire to it or save up their money because they want to do the exact same thing as those people. But the truth and the reality are completely different things.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know,
Nick bringing it back down for you, lads. Truth and
reality. Slippery slope doing that kind of thing. So, I'd much rather stay in a hotel that I know I could comfortably afford in and, you know, to myself or with the people I want to be with, rather than having to go to those lengths just so I can get a few pretty pictures. Just seems absurd to me. Yeah.
No. Oh, I mean, I'm not going to lie. Purely from a completionist standpoint, the only 2 hotels that I've not stayed in are New York and the Disneyland Hotel, and just 2 have stayed in them all. At some stage, I want to stay there. Also, there is nothing worse than after one of those like late night things, either the Halloween party or that Phantom Manor soiree thing, when it's like bloody 2:00 in the morning, it is freezing cold, it is pissing rain, and you're just like, but what if my room was just here?
Yeah.
What if I didn't have to walk the extra 10 minutes to Santa Fe? What if I didn't have to do that?
Just like midday breaks after the parade. Like, I'm just going to go just lie down for an hour. Yeah. And I'll just listen to the Main Street music while I lie down. See,
the problem is I don't have that condition. I have this thing where I'm like the Energizer Bunny. I just don't stop. I don't like to have a rest. I'm going to need to soon. Obviously, I'm getting old. But at this moment in time, I don't need to do that. I'm 57. But let's not talk about what I look like. I look like a tin of baked beans, 57 varieties. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't justifications for it. But the thing is, Sinead, like if you want to stay at the Disneyland Hotel, if you want to stay at a hotel in New York, you can do that. You won't do it every trip. You may not be able to do it the next trip you go on to.
I'll probably get to do it that one time.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, like, let's. And I haven't got a price sheet in front of me now, and you know, who knows what the prices are like because of COVID, right? But
I have prices. Don't worry.
But you know, when I've looked at staying at a Sequoia Lodge or a Cheyenne compared to a New York, a Newport Bay, a Disneyland hotel, you know, you might be talking about double the cost. You might be talking
definitely for the Disneyland Hotel.
Yeah, right. You know, so it might be £500 to stay at the Cheyenne. It might be £1,200 to stay at the Disneyland Hotel. That was definitely when I was looking at one of my last trips. That was the kind of comparison.
Yeah.
And I did have that. Well, do I stump up the extra money? Now I didn't. For me, that extra money is food. That's merchandise. That's, you know, a few extra drinks during the day or whatever. So for me, I could do it if I wanted to, and that's not showing off. But I decided that I could spend my money better than doing that. But if I wanted to do that, if I wanted to have that holiday and I knew it was going to cost me that much more, I'd just save up for it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. So the thing is, like, you staying at the New York, you staying at the Disneyland hotels, the hotels you haven't, that's not, you know, that is something you can do if you want to. It just means that you might have to have one trip the next year you do that rather than 2 or whatever. But you can save up and afford to do it if that's what you want to do. And the problem is you get people that will go to whatever lengths they can do, like staying 8 to a room, to justify doing it. And that's not pleasurable. Like, if you're going to stay in that hotel, you want to stay in that hotel and have that whole experience for the 3, 4, 5 days that you're there, not a few hours.
He looks disgusted.
I don't know. Who am I more disgusted at? Am I disgusted at people that would do that? Or am I disgusted at myself for being so angry about stuff? I don't know. I think in my old age, I've decided that I shouldn't be quite so angry about stuff. But that kind of thing does really bug me, because we are living in a world where, it's all about how good you can make yourself. And some of these people that run these accounts are really not nice people.
Some of these people.
And I mean, even if you want to look outside of that, look at the bigger ones like the trackers and people like that, right? Tim Tracker, I know a few people that have met Tim Tracker, and they've always said he's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jen, bloody horrible. Certainly on social media, she's absolutely horrible.
Hater.
Right. She bullied me. She bullied me, accused me of bullying her, then sent a load of her followers to then start having a go at me for bullying her when I didn't, because I didn't agree with something she said. Didn't even have a go at her, but she's always playing the victim. She's a horrible person, yet that channel is huge.
Yeah.
They've got all this influence. And look. Why do you need a $2,000 cardigan in Florida?
This is a very valid point.
Look, there's a lot of things with the trackers that are just big issues. Mainly they keep going to Walt Disney World. But and I've got a soft spot. Their baby's quite cute. But
cute.
Beyond that, I'm like, please stop. So anyway, before this turns into a hate podcast on the trackers, because easily do.
Look what happened. Nick comes on a podcast and show gets ruined. What a show. I told you, I wanted to come on for just an interview segment, wouldn't ruin a show, and look what's happened. Bulldoze is in. Throwing his weight around, which because of COVID and being, in lockdown has actually increased substantially. So I do have a weight to throw around.
And we move on to our last piece of news.
Oh, we're still in the first segment?
Yeah.
We are.
We were doing pretty well too. So a statement from Ken Potrock, who's the president of Disneyland Resort.
It's my favorite last name.
Potrock.
Hey Fred, it's my new bus.
That reference was too outdated for me. We want to thank our annual pass holders for their understanding during this closure period. Due to the continued uncertainty of the pandemic and limitations around the reopening of our California theme parks, we will be issuing appropriate refunds for eligible Disneyland Resort annual pass holders and sunsetting the current program. Sunsetting, again, with the nice little sunset there. We're currently developing new membership offerings that will utilize consumer insights to deliver choice, flexibility, and value for our biggest fans. So no more annual passes for Disneyland California.
Biggest fans sounds a little bit like a code word for richest fans.
Oh, truth.
Club33.com.
People are losing their goddamn minds about this, and to a degree I get it. A lot of the annual pass holders for California have been annual pass holders since they were too old to get in for free when they were toddlers, and I think for a lot of people it's the fact that they're now no longer lifelong annual pass holders. I think that Blue Peter badge of honor, not having that anymore, is outraging an awful lot of people. I think it's also pretty clear this is a money grab, because it means that when they reopen, all those vloggers and bloggers and influencers and everybody else is going to be clamoring to get themselves a day ticket so that they can get in and be one of the first people in the park and to post on YouTube and whatnot for it. So, yeah.
I was going to say something there. I can't remember what it was. Oh, everyone on social media starts off their bios now with former pass holder, and I'm like, shut the fuck up.
No, they do not.
Former pass holder, current pass hole. That's what it should say. Look, you talked about this last week. We talked about it last night. Talking about it again now. It's in a lot of ways, I think it's a massive overreaction.
If Disney fans overreacting.
Oh man, I wish this was a video podcast so you've seen my glorious acting. The thing is, this whole thing about they're taking away my membership. If Disney could have turned around and just said, sorry guys, we don't know when we're reopening, so we're just cancelling all the annual passes. Bye. Then fair enough. But they haven't done that. They've turned around and done what I think is the only realistic thing they can do, which is say we're going to have to give you your money back. Now, we talked about some things that they might be able to do to kind of mitigate some of this. So they could have turned around and said, while your passes are valid, whatever we would have extended them to, you can still get your benefits, like, your discounts at the shops and that kind of thing. I think that would have helped kind of do that. I also think that if they offered discounts for day tickets to people with annual passes now, when they do reopen, I think that would have gone a long way as well. Or said, you get 10 tickets at half the cost, whatever.
To say sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Some kind of incentive. I think that would have gone a long way as well. But to be honest, even if they had done that, I think the reaction would have been the same.
Yeah.
I don't think there was anything I don't think there was anything any company could do faced with that circumstance that would have not caused the upset from the types of people that are upset by this.
The thing is as well, like, those type of pass holders are, as like we always say, it says, like, they are like the OG, we love Walt forever.
I think the word you're looking for is entitled.
Well, no, yeah, Disney entitled.
Yeah.
I mean, they might just be entitled in their life, but like definitely like Disney entitled. Like, I have a Disneyland annual pass. Thank you very much. Like that kind of way. And I do feel like, what did Ed say? He was like, oh no, what did we find online? I think found online, Ed told me it was like the day, like, how many people lost their personality because their personality was brilliant. That they have a Disneyland annual pass, and now they don't have an identity anymore because that's what they lived on.
Well, the problem is, and again, kind of going back to what we were talking about the Disneyland Hotel, you do have people who have been able to somehow make a living of being an influencer, a vlogger, when it comes to Disney content. Now, for you and me, what that means is you see annoying people in the parks trying to, talk, shout over everyone, and wave their phones up in your face while they're trying to get a good view of something on their vlog. But what it's done is it's caused this culture where people have moved to Florida, moved to Anaheim.
Michael K is a big one.
They've done it. Now the thing is, if you're doing that, if you want to move to Orlando or you want to move to Disneyland because you want to be nearer the parks, full stop, because that's a choice you made, fair enough. But anyone that's done that because they think that's their only life choice, that's their only work choice, and now that's been taken away from them, what are they left with?
Yeah. And I think it's something that we've seen a lot of now. Like I've mentioned before, there's a couple that are Disneyland vloggers. And I remember, obviously it would have been pre-pandemic, like them doing a Q&A, and loads of people had asked, like, do you ever plan to go to Disney World? Like, is this something you'd be interested in? And them like adamantly saying, no, why would we go to Disney World? We have the best Disney park here. Why would we ever bother? We have zero interest in going to Florida. Signs on it. They've already been, and they're going back again in like 2 weeks time, because now they're like, oh my God, we love Florida. Florida's amazing, but purely because Disneyland's not open. So they're just like, shite. Guess we better go to Florida.
Yeah, you've got to go to where you can make some money, right? And I mean, the percentage of actual creators making good money is small.
Yeah.
They're in like the top 2% type of thing is what it is.
It's the same with podcasting, right? When we used to be on, like Kate just did the Native American crying man. When we used to be on our first publishing website, we used to use a company called Libsyn, who are still like the Apple of podcast hosting. Like, they're very expensive, very well established, very beloved. And we actually had the owner of Libsyn on as a guest, and he was saying to us that, if you get over 1,000 downloads an episode, you're pretty much in the top 10% of podcasts. Now that's tiny to me. Like that sounds tiny, but then you've got to think how many podcasts are out there generally.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And especially, post pandemic, probably a hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
But the thing is, even though at that stage we were in the top 10% and we didn't think we were anything, top 10% sounds great. Actually making money is a top 10%, almost impossible. You've got to be in the top 1 to 2% of those, and those are people that are getting hundreds of thousands of downloads or getting hundreds of thousands of hits on YouTube. And there's not many of them. And we would go, I remember when we last went to Universal and we saw lots of people trying to do vlogs. Some of the people we knew, some of the people we didn't know, all of them doing the same thing, all of them filming the same content.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
The reason why people listen to this show, right, is because they like the relationship that you both have and the way you bounce off each other. And, people listen to podcasts because they like the content. We are when we do our show as well, we're talking about the same stuff. We're in the same position. And the only thing that makes you different is how you present that or how you are able to bounce off the other people that you do. And that's why you have an audience. That's why we have an audience. But trying to be unique in that world is almost impossible. And it's the same with vloggers. And as I said, like, people have literally, given up everything in order to pursue this dream, wanting to be the next tracker. And, no one's going to turn around to them and say, you need to find another job. You need to make, have that as your hobby, but this is not going to be your main source of income. It's not.
Yeah. It's mad, isn't it? Because you see so many small businesses on Instagram where they have their full-time job and then they have their small business on Instagram and they both work quite harmoniously together. But it's like, as soon as you're a vlogger, it's like, no, this is my job and it's my only job. And it's like, what? Well, you could. Like, you could go to the park on your your days off. No, okay.
Yeah. But like, in Signs on It, a lot of the Disneyland vloggers are now kind of just left because the park's been closed for nearly a year. So they haven't, other than maybe a trip to downtown Disney to have a look around World of Disney or go to a restaurant or something like that, they've not been able to produce any content.
No, that's it. And, I'm sure you had the same kind of thing yourselves where, the parks aren't open. So what are we talking about
what
this
week?
What
do we talk about?
Yeah. You girls do a weekly show. And it's quite funny because I remember at the beginning of last year when you turn around and were like, oh yeah, we might have to go monthly or we might not be as consistent. And then, fast forward a month or two, bang, you're weekly. Enjoy it, boys and girls. We changed our mind. And look, we only do, of the Disney podcast, we do 2 episodes a month. For the Universal one, we do an episode once a month. We actually record a podcast, at least one podcast every week. And we had the same thing. Like, it was getting towards the end of the summer. And it's like, what do we do? Because not much is going on. And when you are talking about stuff, it comes across as negative because what's going on is negative.
Yeah.
I'm just good at that anyway.
Yeah, but I think that, the thing, and you girls do it so well as well, is that you will chew Disney up. If they're doing something that you don't agree with, you will call it out, and that's our thing as well. And it does make me laugh when we get complaints about that. You're being too negative. Okay, well, there's like literally 1,000 other Disney podcasts you can listen to that will like, hey, look, Disney have just fired 30,000 cast members, but aren't they great? If you want to listen to that, knock yourself out. You can go and find those if you want to. If you want people telling you this is actually really bad and the company that you love, you are still allowed to love them, but also recognize they're not the perfect company you think they are, then that's where we come in.
And we know that firsthand. But I suppose just the kind of like very final thing we wanted to mention in the news, just to move on from Disneyland, but very to still stick on the like controversial bloggers, vloggers, whoever else topic. We mentioned before that Gideon's had their like soft opening in Disney Springs.
Yes.
There was an 11-hour queue for cookies.
Yeah, for anyone who isn't aware, Gideon's is a cookie shop. They sell cookies and coffee.
When you
No,
said
these
soft
cookies look
opening, did you mean
unfucking believable.
Did you mean soft because of the cookies being soft, or?
Wait. They should have played off of that, Nick. They should be hiring you for that shit.
I have to say, like, don't get me wrong, the cookies look fucking amazing, and I'm desperate to get one of their peanut butter cold brews because they just sound delightful. But 11 fucking hours for a cookie. It was a virtual queue, so you could potter off and do other things, or you could drive 20 minutes, half an hour, and go to the other Gideon's down the road,
which had no queues.
Had no queue,
apparently. Look, here's what I'm going to say about Gideon's and things like it. Right, it's all right making your food look really good, but it doesn't always translate. So, case in point, and I know this is quite controversial, like, and I'm sorry we're talking about this, but Universal have voodoo donuts. Right, and everyone goes mad from them. And those donuts look amazing. And you go in the shop and the donuts look amazing. And what one do I choose? You've got so many to choose from. Oh, choices. And you buy one, maybe buy two, and you eat it, and you're like, oh, this tastes just like a donut.
That's good. Do you not think donuts are a great novelty though?
Yeah.
I like donuts.
Like they're a high bar novelty food. Like they're novelty, but they also taste great because they're donuts.
Yes, but the point is that especially when it first, not so much now, although at certain points of the day will get quite busy, but it's just a donut. Like this donut will not blow your mind. It does not taste that different from Krispy Kreme or Dunkin' or anything like that. It tastes like a donut.
How do I know until I taste it for myself?
And if you want to queue up for 11 hours to find out them, the point I'm making is that
I get you.
No one should queue up for 11 hours for a bit of food, especially when it's not the only location in the nearby vicinity.
Yeah, they do look bomb though.
And I was telling Sinead before we went on air that there's like a plethora of copycat recipes for Gideon cookies online. And so many people are like, yeah, these are pretty much bang fucking on. Just make your own. Well, you can't leave your house anyway. Well, unless you live in Florida, I guess. So there's the big conundrum there.
And you have to wear masks when you leave, apparently. So what? Gideon's is new to me. Like, I heard they were opening up one. I knew that it was a small chain, but what is it?
Their aesthetic kind of is like a spooky Harry Potter-esque library type shtick, seems to be the decor. Their cookies weigh like a half a pound each. Like they're mammoth. And they have like a bag of chocolate chips
on the outside
in a cookie. And they're like thing that they're really, other than the monstrous cookies, is they're well known for, they make a peanut butter cold brew, which sounds delightful. But other than the fact that they make these monstrous cookies, that kind of just seems to be the main shtick, really.
But like it's the same thing as those sprinkles cupcake things.
I don't get them.
But this like when they opened, it's the same thing. It's like when they opened, it's like we're cupcakes and we have a song. And everyone's like, woo, you're cupcakes.
That should be the slogan. Sprinkles cupcakes. We're cupcakes.
Like maybe you should marketing.
I know, right?
On the case.
I've always said, can I go in the other side, which is creative? I was like, I think I'd be quite good at that.
I've watched the first 5 seasons of Mad Men. I think I could talk my way out of it. True story though. True story. Years and years ago, when I was a little young one, my ideal job at the time was to be the guy that worked for the paint company that came up with it for the name of shades of paint.
Wow.
Oh, brilliant.
Because I just thought, like, how much fun must that be? You know, just nonsense. That suits me down to the ground, obviously.
Yeah. Although that does remind me, one of my favorite things is, you know, the guy that guesses the paint on TikTok?
Oh, yeah. I love him.
I love it. Have you seen this guy, Nick?
Well, I know what I'm doing tonight.
Oh my God. You know those like paint machines where you just like, you can like give them like a t-shirt and say, I want paint that's this color. It's basically, he watches them put in the like either clear or like a white paint. And then he watches what colors go in and he guesses what the color is going to turn out like afterwards. It's
After
such just like wholesome content.
But he's either bang on or completely off.
Yeah, there's nothing in between.
Is there anything more violent? Now, I'm not saying this as someone who's seen a man hit a woman, right? Which is obviously extremely violent and obviously horrible, deplorable.
I'm really intrigued to where this is going.
But is there anything more violent than the painting going in that machine to get shaken up?
Yeah.
I mean, that really gets thrown
Very
about. And the noise, you know?
Very aggressive.
Do you imagine the paint can just sits there and it's like, maybe today? Oh, no. Okay. Maybe today? No. And it's like, oh my God, guys, it's me. It's me. It's me. And it's like, oh my God, it's so exciting. And then afterwards, it's like, holy shit. What the fuck was that?
I'm honestly surprised they never throw up afterwards. It would make, you know what? It would make a really good death in a Guy Ritchie gangster film.
I don't think they're big enough.
You could fit someone's head in there, surely.
But I don't think they work unless you close. There's a safety feature.
Oh, yeah. Bloody.
They'd have to...
It's all right, we're at the EU now. We don't need safety features anymore.
You don't need anything. You don't even need your own people.
Well, before we get into a Brexit debate, although I don't think it would be much of a debate, to be fair. No. Before we get on to the reason that we actually have Nick on the podcast, the only other thing we wanted to mention was WandaVision was the thing that came out in this past week. What did we all think?
Loved it. Loved it. Watched it twice since. I love it. I've watched all the YouTube videos on it that explain all the things I missed and all the things that could be happening. And I just love it even more. I want it now. I hate that it's only out every Friday. We finished watching it. And I turned to Ed and I said, I hate that this is so good.
I bloody love it. I think it's great. I love that kind of like kitschy humor, like Bewitched, I Dream of Jeannie, The Munsters, The Addams Family, like all of those TV shows just speak to my soul on like a deep level. So I knew I was going to absolutely love this, but it's great. I love it. I absolutely love it. What's your thoughts, Nick?
It's so in my wheelhouse because, you know, one of the things that I found out afterwards is the fact that obviously the first two episodes, we've got a 50s and 60s sitcom. Episode 3 is going to be 70s. Then we're going to have 80s, 90s, go up to 2000s.
We're doing Malcolm in the Middle.
Pardon?
One of them's going to be based on Malcolm in the Middle.
Oh, amazing.
Yep.
Okay. But growing up, because obviously I'm a slightly bit older than you girls. When I grew up in the 80s, it was at a real prime time where we had those old 50s and 60s and 70s shows as well as what was happening there and then.
Yeah.
So, you know, when I was a kid, I wasn't just exposed to what was current in the 80s. I was exposed to the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. That led into the 90s. So all of these things, I lived through it.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up with these things. So seeing how they've recreated it is just incredible. And the thing I don't get though, Kate, is
go on.
Apparently the budget for this show is $25 million an episode.
Yeah, so what's wrong with that?
Where is it?
Do you not think, now this is going to sound stupid, right? But
you're talking, not me. This isn't going to be stupid.
Do you not think it costs money to get things to look as good as they do?
Because it all looks very authentic.
Yeah, it costs money to make things look like they did in the 50s. And to make them like, because they are they called special effects when they're real effects? There's two different words for this, isn't there? There's
practical
effects. Thanks. So like they are practical effects in the thing, and I think it costs money to be able to do that the way they did because obviously time has progressed so much. So it's the same as like when like things get newer, older things, if you want one, they're so sparse they become more expensive kind of thing. I think it's like to do with that, but also like the set changes every fucking episode.
We do have 3D printers nowadays though.
Yeah, and they're expensive.
For Disney.
You can buy a 3D printing pen for like a tenner. What are you talking about? I know you can 3D printing pens.
They're using a single pen for the entire set.
Little tiny like dribble or plastic. I love the fact, and the thing is, going in, I think because I'd kind of focus more on the black and white footage, I assumed that some of it took place in like the 50s, and then some of it took place a bit later on. I didn't realize they were kind of going through the decades. So between episode 1 and episode 2, I wasn't expecting the change that we saw. So it was really, I'm watching them going, hang on, that the downstairs is different.
Yeah,
the staircase wasn't there.
Yeah.
Then you got the intro sequence, and the other thing as well, I didn't notice in the first episode who did the theme music, but I did notice in episode 2 that lovely bewitched opening sequence with the WandaVision song that was written by the Lopez's.
Of course it was.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, I mean, look, it was either going to be them or Lin-Manuel Miranda. The only people they've got now.
He's busy at the minute.
Yeah.
Alan Menken's doing something right at the end. So it'd be interesting to see if they're doing more, if they just did that one episode or if they're doing more. But again, we've got a different title sequence. We got a different, song at the beginning. I just thought it was great. And also as well, Paul Bettany, the Vision is isn't a great character, but he's very kind of
Vision.
There's no charisma there. There's nothing there.
Very monotoned.
Yeah,
exactly. Whilst in this, obviously, he's allowed a lot more, to play loose and free, and it's a delight to see. I can't say I was ever a massive fan of Elizabeth Olsen or Scarlet Witch, but again,
isn't she great?
Yes. Well, the thing is, no one isn't great. Everybody in this show is brilliant. No matter how big or small the role is, every role feels important. But
because it probably is in the end.
Well,
let's be real.
that is also true. But the fact that they've been given this kind of new this chance to actually shine, and actually not be in this. I mean, geez. I mean, I've watched Age of Ultron once. I've only seen it once. Many. Well, that's kind of how I feel. So I remember when Scarlet Witch was introduced in that, and I just didn't like the character at all. I didn't like the accent. That obviously got quickly dropped. I think she only had it for that film, didn't she?
It gets lighter. Like, she does still kind of have it, but it's much more American twanged.
Right, okay. But it kind of dropped off almost immediately. And I mean, her character got more interesting as the films went on, but again, they were really, kind of pushed to the side characters. Now they're at the forefront, and now they're doing a really good job. And also, it's that, where's this going to go? Like, my wife was frustrated because we got to the end of episode 2, and she's like, well, I don't know what's going on. I need to know what's going on. And I was you watched Lost.
Oh wow! Really pulling that out on her.
Right, and we watched Lost when it was an episode a week. Right, not like the days now where you can, or next month when you can go on Disney Plus and be able to binge watch the whole thing. But when we had massive gaps between episodes and massive gaps between seasons, and you didn't have a clue what was going on. At least with this, you got little glimmers even in those first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And you've only got to wait a week for another reveal.
Yeah. And to be honest, I know that's been a criticism from a lot of people. To be honest, I don't care. Like, I don't care that I have no idea what's going on. I'm just quite happy to just enjoy the content. But
like, we know it's going to come together. Like, that's the thing.
But
a lot of people are giving out online because it's not your stereotypical, why doesn't this have guns? Why is an Iron Man here? Why isn't this all just about superheroes and there's no capes and blah 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 blah? And I kind of gave the comparison to Kate. It's kind of the reason why people, and this is a very niche reference, why people hate Halloween 3 versus all of the other Halloween movies, and why they just abandoned that route because, but Michael Myers isn't in it and he's not stabbing people. And it's like, yeah, but it doesn't have to be about that. It can still just be a Halloween movie without bloody Michael Myers. Just like, this can be a cool Marvel thing and not just have guns.
They did a Star Wars TV show with no one really that you knew. Just somebody that looked a little bit like someone that you thought you knew.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and going back to the Mandalorian, like the Mandalorian, we didn't know where that was going.
Yep.
You watched episode 1 and you watched episode 2, and you're like, okay, so this asset that he's been told he has to get is alive, and it looks like Yoda, but what does that mean? And then, get to the end of the second episode, and you're still not really sure. You know that he's supposed to take it somewhere, but is he going to do it? Is he going to run away? What's going to happen? We didn't know 1 week to the next where this was going.
Yeah.
So I don't really see the difference. I think the only thing is with this, because there's this level of mystery, real mystery, much more than you got in The Mandalorian, that's why people might be getting a bit more frustrated with it. But this is what proper TV shows should be. They should be taking you on a path. And on all of these shows so far are like contained stories.
Yeah.
I think as well, just before we actually move on, the like fan base of Marvel, I feel, is a lot bigger. And it's going to sound stupid and people are going to get mad at me, but I think the fan base of Marvel is a lot broader than the fan base of Star Wars, in the fact that there's a lot more casual Marvel viewers than there would be casual Star Wars viewers. And so I think there's a lot of people who would have like followed like phase 3, let's say, and gone to the end of the MCU and then maybe gone back and watched some more, or blah, blah, or like built into the hype of Infinity War. And now they're like, oh my God, this is the next Marvel thing that we get to see. I'm so excited. What's happening? Because like we finished that now. So what's going to start? And it started with this 50s sitcom. And they're like, what the fuck is this shit?
Well, and the fact that there's been such a gap between
it's been so long,
Spider-Man, Far From Home, and this, I get it. Look, I grew up reading Marvel comics and watching X-Men and Spider-Man, cartoons. So I've been on this journey for a while, and I remember going to see the first. I went to the premiere of the first Iron Man. Right, I went up to London for the premiere of the first Iron Man. Everyone was there because no one was really sure how big this film was going to be. Mm-hmm. So I got Downey Jr.'s autograph and Favreau and the original War Machine, whose name is just for that, Terrence Howard, right? And Paltrow. They're all there. No one knew that this was going to be, they thought it was going to be a popular film, but no one knew what this was going to lead to. No one had an idea. And I remember going to see that. My wife watched that and enjoyed it. She saw Iron Man 2. She didn't like Captain America, didn't like Thor, so she kind of came out for a bit. Then I made her watch Guardians of the Galaxy and she really liked that. So then she kind of went back and caught up, and and she did the same thing towards the end of like phase 3. She was getting a bit burnt out because there was so many films with all these storylines kind of intertwining. And it was only on the lead up to Infinity War coming out that she was like getting excited again for it and went back and watched it. So I think you're right. I think people are. And the simple fact there's so many films. I mean, what was there? 22 films?
There's a lot, yeah.
In 12 years ish?
Mm-hmm.
That was. It's a lot of films. I failed.
Not if you can't count when you 3 fingers.
But I think if I remember rightly, I think Iron Man was 2008. And then Endgame was 2019, wasn't it? It was not last year, the year before. Yeah. So it's all right, 11 years. 22 films in 11 years.
11 years. Yeah.
And we didn't get 2 films a year. Some years we got 3 films.
Yeah.
So
I just think like the likelihood of you seeing at least 2 of those to then grab you into WandaVision is a lot higher than the Star Wars thing. But yeah, I could probably talk all day about WandaVision, but we probably shouldn't.
Not after 2 episodes. So much more to talk about when the rest come out.
True.
Yeah.
Right. So news aside, we should probably get on to the reason that we have Nick on. So
why do you have me on?
Because it's Special Guest Tuesday. Hey.
I was on to talk about the botched release of the Stitch cuddly toy yesterday.
Was it a botched? No, we can't talk about it. We'll talk.
It's sold out in 10 minutes apparently.
That's 10 minutes. That's a long time. They usually sell out in like 30 seconds.
You saw it though, didn't you?
Saw what? The actual product.
Yeah.
Have we ever?
Right. So
don't worry, guys. We'll talk about the February one next week.
Oh yeah. We move on. We digress. I can't. We have to talk about what we're here to talk about.
So we we mentioned a while ago that because it's well documented on the podcast, me and Kate like to stay on site when we stay in Disneyland Paris. And basically, Nick was like, let me come back on Mickey Waffles. I want to have it out with the two of you and convince you why you should stay offsite.
And I'm totally open to this. I've never been like majorly against staying offsite. I just like being on site.
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier that I have got some prices. So before we go into kind of the pros and cons and stuff, Sandy, who we've had on the podcast a couple times now, she paints the lovely jackets. We'll leave all Sandy's links below. She was supposed to go in March, or had a trip booked in March, and then went to move it to June. So she was looking up a ton of prices and very helpfully sent them over to us. So she looked up 3 nights, start of June, for 2 adults, and we have a plethora of prices. The 2 on-site places, the only ones that are open. Santa Fe is €692. Newport Bay is €1,115, which is quite a significant price jump.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. B&B, 334. Magic Circus, 559. Explorers, 551. Hotel Elise, 719, which seems awfully expensive. And then High Park, 307. So just a kind of like spectrum. So you can stay as cheap as 307 for 3 nights, or as expensive as 1,115 if you're staying in the Newport Bay, which, as again, well documented, we don't recommend.
No. Ever. Oh, rude people. Rude people.
Yeah.
Speaking of rude people, here I am.
I was about to get attacked.
It is really funny when you look at it like that, isn't it? When you have that kind of spectrum of prices, like you say. So the first 3 times I stayed at Disneyland, I stayed on site. I think it may have been trip 4 or 5 that I first ventured off site. And I actually first ventured off site because my parents did. This is obviously when I was talking to them, but they'd gone to my brother was he still is a computer geek, and he was at a conference that was being held at the expo center that they have in the village.
The big white tent thing.
Yeah. And it was the summer, so they couldn't, it was quite late notice. They couldn't get into on property, I think, without staying somewhere really expensive. So they stayed at Val d'Europe, and they stayed at the Elysee. So it's funny that you pulled that one up. And so I had such a nice time that the next time I went, I stayed there. And then I would say after that, I really kind of started to bounce around. So over the years, I've stayed on site, I've stayed on property, but in those, extra hotels. And
the ones that have the bus.
Yes. And also in Val d'Europe. I've never stayed further than that. I know people do. And I mean, again, if you what's your budget? If you really want to go cheap, you can, stay a good few stops down on the RER and get a nice hotel, but you're going to have, a bigger journey in every day. I think Val d'Europe is a really good stopping point because it is still so near to the parks without feeling that you're far away. I've got to be honest, I'm not really a fan of the on-site partner hotels.
Okay.
I've only stayed in the Explorers, I think. Was it Magic Circus? No.
I always see them as the same hotel.
Yeah, Explorers is the Pirates one, isn't it? The piratey one.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know it's definitely not the Magic one. The castle.
No. So P-Dubs loves those hotels. He stayed at the B&B. He stayed there. I think he stayed at Magic Circus as well. I stayed with him for Run Disney at the Explorers. I don't like the reliance on the buses because, as you know, staying at any Disney on-site hotel, the buses are an absolute nightmare at home time. During the day,
we never use them.
Fine, but at night. Now, when we did Run Disney, we couldn't get a bus. We had to walk from, the studios. I think was the first race night was at the studios. So we had to walk from there all the way to the Explorers, which took about 30 minutes, I'd say.
I was about to say, about half an hour.
Yeah. It wasn't too bad. And to be honest, it should have affected us a lot more bearing in mind we've just done like a 5K run, but it was okay. Not ideal, but it was fine. So I don't like those because of the lack of choice. Now, when you are looking at Val d'Europe, for example, you do have the option of getting a bus or getting the tube, getting the RER. And obviously the station is right there, slap bang in the middle before you get to the bus stop, just as you come out of the park. So that's why I'm quite a fan. But it's not just the location or the prices that I'm even a fan of, really. It's the fact that you are in this little town that's got this massive shopping center, which means that you can, you've got all these like restaurants that you can go to and bars that you can go to. And you've got a massive supermarket, a 2-floored supermarket, which is great for getting snacks and for getting drinks to take into the parks with you. As an example, a 500 milliliter bottle of Coke is €1 in there. How much is the same bottle inside the park?
Like $3.50.
Yeah. I know it's around that kind of price, $3.50, $3.84. I've seen it all, at various times, different prices. So, there is a good saving if you want to do that. But, you can stay in apartments around. You don't have to just stay at a hotel. So we stayed in apartments one year. We were able to, make sandwiches for lunch. We had a cool bag, take them in a cool bag. It's another way that we could, save a bit of money. So it meant that we could buy more merchandise. I think your priorities come into it as well. But staying at Val d'Europe, especially, and the Elysee was my go-to for a long time because it was so near the station. It was across the road from the station. It was across the road from the shopping centre. Within 3 minutes, you were at one of them, whichever one you wanted to go to. And the tube runs, I think, about every 5 or 10 minutes. And it's it's one stop into the park. You can get a bus from there, but it's going to be quicker to get the tube.
Yeah.
So there's some of the reasons why I like to stay offsite.
Okay. I think for me, what my kind of like thing always is I don't want to have to rely on any form of transport. And that's why I never even use the Disney buses when we stay on site. So if we stay in Cheyenne or Santa Fe, we'll walk. Because I don't like having to rely on the buses. I don't like having to wait. I get really anxious trying like navigating public transport. Honestly, it's why it's partially why we never bother getting the train when we get into Charles de Gaulle. One, because the train times never line up with when the Aer Lingus flights land. You always just miss one and you have to wait an hour. So rather than wait an hour sitting in the airport, we could already be on the way to the park anyway. So it's much of a muchness. But I hate trying to navigate public transport in a country that I don't understand, and I don't understand the language. I don't speak a tap of French, and I can't be dealing with that. Now, one place that does intrigue me though is again Sandy, who we've already mentioned. She went back in October and stayed in, is it called the Relais Spa, Kate? I think I have that right.
You're speaking to a goldfish, Sinead.
I'm pretty sure it's called the Relais Spa. But she could walk within 10 minutes. She said it was no longer a walk than it was from Cheyenne or Santa Fe. It was basically the exact same walk. It's just the other way. You go out past where like Five Guys is. And that I would be very open to. She showed us around her room. They ended up getting like a junior suite. And the room was
huge.
Beautiful. They had a kitchen and everything in it. It was absolutely stunning. If she like really hung out her like balcony, she could see the park. So that I'm on board with. Like I'm not married necessarily to it being a Disney hotel. I just don't like the idea about having to rely on any form of public transport. That's kind of where my head is at anyways.
And I get it because, as you say, the one big benefit is being able to walk to your hotel, having that option. When we went on our last trip at Halloween, we went with my daughter, so we didn't have a buggy, but we might have lots of bags, or we might have
Kate's secret best friend. I don't think Alice knows.
It's a one-way friendship.
Yeah. But so sometimes we had to get the bus. So it was more useful to get the bus. She had tired legs, and that happens with kids. So you do need to rely on that sometimes. They're trying to get the bus back at night, almost impossible.
Yeah.
You know, we had to carry her back sometimes, or at least some of the way, because just getting on a bus was just not going to happen. You know, and we've been there. Like when we went there when the kids were in buggies and they were still small babies, that bus would pull in. Doesn't matter how long you've been waiting there for. All of a sudden, you're pushed out of the way, or you're pushed into. Do you know what I mean? You have to fight to get on the bus, which is just not. And when you've got sleeping babies, like we would take our babies out if they were awake, right? We'd fold down our buggies. It makes more space. But when those babies are asleep, it's not, you can't do it very easily, and nor should you be forced into that position. But the way people get aggressive about it, it's just awful. And I mean, the thing is, if you, I said, like it's a lot of factors, right? That you've got to kind of like weigh up. So we've stayed at the Elise, for example, for like 4 nights, and it's cost me about £300, while staying at Santa Fe or Cheyenne would have been about double that at the same time. So you go, okay, well, it's going to cost me half the price. I'm going to have to get a train in. What's the train going to cost? Well, the train is about, off the top of my head, about 180 to go. So okay, so you can buy a book. You know, one of the things they do like a book of tickets. So you buy like 10 single tickets, and you get a discount on those. So, you know, each ticket doesn't cost you what it would cost you in cash. So you can have that for the week or whatever. Most hotels have shuttle buses, so you can get on those. And obviously, if you're getting on them at the start, it's much easier than trying to get them on later on. They take the same, they take the same bus stop in Disneyland Paris. But you can, as you say, walk from Val to Europe, and some of those hotels might be 10 minutes, some of those might be 25 minutes. If you want to walk them, you can walk them. You know, you would need a map. It's not very well signposted. You would need to get Google up on your phone or Apple Maps or something, or print something before you go, but you would be able to walk to the parts if you wanted to from there. But for me, it's the freedom to be able to do other things. So the tube normally runs until about midnight or 1 a.m. I think, most days. So, you know, most of the time you're going to be fine leaving the parts and getting on the tube, because, you know, you're not going to be going out that late anyway. The tube's double decker, so there's always plenty of room. The trains are quite long as well. So I've never gone onto a train platform and had to wait for the next train. Do you know what I mean? Like you're normally able to get on the train as soon as it's there. But as I said, it's more the other thing. So look, Sinead, you know this, the food, it's not the best, is it, at DLP for us?
No.
So being able to, you know, pop on a train 2 minutes later, being in this little town with loads of places to eat is good. It gives us much more options to go and eat in, hotels and bars as well that you can go and get food in. But it's the little things like being able to go and get a cheap breakfast on the way in, or being able to go and get those drinks or get those snacks that, you know, it saves money but adds up. And you can go really cheap if you wanted to. I mean, I know people that stay at the Ibis. There's 2 Ibis hotels right next to the station. One's a budget and one's a regular Ibis. And I think the budget sleeps 3 adults. And you can, if you book it early enough in advance, it costs you about 35, 40 euros a night.
Yeah. Eleanor Dreaming, Luke and Rich, there's a vlog of them, and they've stayed at one of the Ibis. And there's vlogs of them trying to get an Uber and failing miserably, and so they just walk.
Yeah, parking can be a bit of an issue around there. I mean, the Elise has parking. I know it has parking, but I don't know about all the hotels. You know, that I think that's underground parking, if I remember correctly. But I know the parking situation isn't great around there. So if you wanted to hire a car, that is something you'd have to consider. And you'd be able to look at in advance. You know, every hotel would tell you if there's parking or whatever.
It's not something they're going to hide from you.
No, exactly.
It is a secret.
and I mean, look, the thing is, I'm not even saying, you know, the Ibis is going to be very budget, right? It's going to be the equivalent of staying in a travel lodge or something. It's not where I'd want to stay, but when people turn around and say, you know, to go to Disneyland Paris is always expensive, it's as expensive as you make it.
Yeah, but like I always say that to people. They're always like, "Oh, how can you like?" I know, like the year that we went a lot, whatever that was, like always stayed on site, but also even with that, used every like advantage we could, like going at certain times, going at certain dates, trying to find the best like discount available with passes, knowing what we're going to spend in advance, knowing all of this stuff. Like if you want it cheap, you can do it cheap. Like Disneyland Paris, 100%. It's not, well, Disney World, but like Disneyland Paris, you can definitely get to a Disney park if you live in Europe for not that much.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've got to weigh up. Obviously, when you stay on site, most of the time, you will get your tickets included in that, right?
Yeah.
So when you're looking at hotels off-site, I mean, some of the partner hotels do offer tickets with them as well. You can have that as options, but most hotels, especially if you go on like a bookings on Expedia or something like that, and you look at these hotels, sometimes they will say they come with tickets, other times they don't. People have this assumption that if you're staying in a Disney hotel, your tickets are included. That's not always the case. It will tell you if your tickets are included.
To be fair, they are pretty clear about that. I have seen them. They're like, tickets not included in this hotel. You
they are
must buy
very clear,
tickets.
but people don't read.
Oh no.
That's the point. It very explicitly tells you that. But if you're just going, oh, it's a Disney hotel, then you're not necessarily looking out for that. I mean, the best deal I ever got, this ironically is on site. We got a deal on Expedia. It was the end of January, and we had 5 days, I want to say, at Santa Fe, and that included tickets. And for 2 adults and 2 children, which were under 3, so they didn't, you still had to have them, but obviously you have to pay for them. It cost me just under £200.
Whoa!
That didn't include Eurostar. Obviously, that was just the hotel and the tickets. And I was like checking it. I'm going,
this is wrong.
Does say tickets. It does say tickets, but surely not. And we got there, and it did include tickets, so fine. And I mean, I'll never see that deal again. And I'm
that
guessing
was a mistake. That was some intern that went.
I think it was because of when it was. It was before the February half term. It was at the end of January. There was some refurbishments going on at that time anyway. Right. So, I think they were just trying to clear out, but whatever. I mean, that is a very rare deal to have. But, I think you've got to, for me, if I want to stay on site, even with my annual pass discount, if I have an annual pass still, sometimes it's not that much cheaper than booking separate. And it is a case of, well, I can, with my budget, I can afford to go once for 4 days staying on property, or I can probably go twice and not stay on property, but have 2 like longer holidays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And do that, split them up between a year, go, in the spring, go for Easter, go for Halloween, or go for Halloween and Christmas, whatever. Because the money that I've saved by not staying on site is, then allows me to have that extra to play around with, especially if you want to go down the annual pass route. I mean, I suppose there's lots of factors when you're looking at it, but there are advantages to staying off-site. Most obviously is financial that makes it worth doing. But as I said, I will stay on site, and I'm not saying one is better than the other. But I think sometimes it's that being in the bubble. If you're on site, you're in the bubble. You can't get lost. If you get lost, you'll see a signpost. You'll see a member of staff. You'll see somebody that's got a luggage tag to your hotel, whatever it is. You'll be able to find your way back. And like you said, Sinead, like, you're not good in another country, trying to find your way about things, trying to navigate your way around things. So it's that comfort, isn't it? That you can't get lost. You can't do something wrong because you're in the bubble. And if you're going for a first time, I would always say you should stay on site, because you want the full experience. You do want the full experience, right?
Yeah.
So
what's your take on a KP?
So I've always liked staying on site, again, mostly because of the whole bubble thing. And I like staying in a Disney hotel. I like having my reservations with Disney. I like my first interaction being a Disney cast member, all this sort of stuff. But as we've become more habitual Disneyland Paris goers, you do sort of learn to realize that it is very hit and miss with like guest experience. And so sometimes it's like, oh, I'll pay this extra. That's fine, because I think I'm getting the Disney experience, because these are Disney cast members and they're going to be nice. And if there's a problem, they'll help me fix it. They won't complain, blah, blah, blah. But we've had experiences now where that's always not the case. And we may have splashed an extra 200 quid over another on-site hotel to go up one hotel, i.e. Hotel New York, not Hotel New York, to Newport Bay, and gotten at the worst experience we've ever had.
Yeah.
So, and I do think as well, there is like, I know we both have a major soft spot for Sequoia Lodge, and I don't think that will ever change. And I do think that has to do with, for some reason, the cast members there are genuinely just all lovely.
They're great.
And I don't know if, shut up, Nick. I don't know if
Look, it's the bar. It's the bar. Let's not pretend we've got great cast members.
But we've had such good experience with some of their cast members that we've had one bad experience with one singular cast member. But like every time we've gone, the reception staff are nice. That guy who's welcoming people down for breakfast, that trip that we had with me, you and Amy, every day it was him directing people out for breakfast. We weren't even going for breakfast, but every day he commented on our Disney bounds, and he was just so lovely. And then when me and Ed went and we stayed at Castle Club, I completely broke the rules, didn't read a sign, was an absolute dope, went behind the thing, to get a drink, and I was like, shit, I'm so sorry. And he was so nice about it. He was like, don't worry, mistakes happen, just don't do it again. And I was like, no problems, won't, no worries, my bad, totally my bad. But he was so nice. He didn't shout at me, he didn't say it was my fault, he didn't disregard me as a human being. And like, that's just one thing about Sequoia. But having these experiences now of staying on site, having the rooms not actually be that great, not that comfy sometimes, bit of a smell maybe, and not always having what I would expect of Disney guest service. And for the fact that now that we've gone so often, I do always like the fact that when you stay on site, it gives you the ability to save time with the whole, it's going to be 15 minutes to get back to my hotel and then I'm in bed or whatever, and you can plan your way around that. And when you stay offsite, obviously it will take you longer to get home regardless.
Well,
I would listen to the end of my point. I'm going to end up agreeing with you. So, but now that we've been and we've done our first trips and we've done our trips here and we've done our trips for this and we've done our trips for that, I'd be very willing to look at offsite hotels now and being like, oh, instead of a 15-minute walk, it's going to take me a 15-minute tube, or it's going to take me 20 minutes or something like that. I would be much more likely to do it now, considering I've been so often in the past. And we are so good at getting around the park during the day and using the most of our time while we're in the park that I'd be willing to sacrifice the extra however long it takes to get home or get there in the morning.
I mean, the only thing I was going to add there, we were trying to interject, was only because I've actually, in less than 10 minutes, gone from the park to the Elysee.
Did you run?
No. Well, no. But it's purely because when I went to the train station, the train had like a minute left.
Right.
Went down the escalator onto the train is 2 minutes and it's literally across the road.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, that's a rarity. I'm not going to pretend it's not. But the point is that sometimes, even if you've got to wait 10 minutes, you might end up being back in your hotel at Val d'Europe quicker than it would have taken you to have gone back to the Cheyenne or the Santa Fe, because of it being that further down. And the other thing, which actually I'd forgotten about, but you pointed out really well there, is check-in. Now, when you check into a Disney hotel, how many like little desks are there? Right? There's loads. Now, when I last checked into the Cheyenne, which is the first time I'd been there in about a decade, I hadn't been back to Cheyenne since it had changed over. We were there over an hour to get in, and then they didn't have the reservation, even though I had it all printed out. They couldn't find it. I'd booked it direct with Disney.
How Disneyland Paris.
Yeah. So all in all, it was
DLP.
almost an hour and a half from when we got in there to when we actually got our room key. Now, I've never stayed off site and queued up more than 10 minutes to get seen, and within minutes got my key.
Yeah, like there was that time where we went for Halloween, and I know it was Halloween, but when we arrived at Santa Fe, the queue was astronomical. Now, we didn't stay because we didn't have to. We all had passes, and so we could just leave our bags, go to the park, and then come back later on when there was no queue. But that really blew my mind. And like they had 4 desks open, as you say, and there was like at least 30 people in the queue, like 30 families.
We were there pretty much the same time. I think we just crossed over because I'd gone to the.
Oh, you went to the first one.
You did the weekend one.
So I'd left we were there Friday to Monday. I think you got there, was it either the Monday or the Tuesday?
No, I don't know. Goldfish.
We got there the day before Halloween.
You expect me to remember that information.
Yeah, so we just miss each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also as well, that week that you were there, that was half term week.
Yeah, true.
We went the weekend before the UK half term because we knew it was going to be busier. So it was busy then. And then that Monday, we even noticed on that Monday how much busier the parks were on that Monday as the day kind of got longer, because people were getting there, dropping the bags off and hitting the park. So it was busier. Why were there not more desks open, and why are they still so slow? So whenever I've stayed, and I've stayed in the Elise, I've stayed at, I can't remember the name of the complex, but one that was like apartments. Never had a problem getting seen by somebody, not had to do the massive queues. So I think that is a disadvantage with Disneyland Paris, is, obviously because it's busy and it's so popular, sometimes you do have a real struggle in just getting checked in, the most basic of things.
I never understand why they need you to fill in the shite on the clipboard. Never, I have stayed in hotels in so many different countries, so many different types of hotels. Never in my life have I been handed a fucking clipboard and told to fill out my entire life story.
But also, it depends. Have you ever noticed? It depends what hotel you go to, whether how much they care about the clipboard. So
Santa Fe, they want every fucking detail. They want to know what you had for lunch when you were 6.
And Cheyenne
also
as well, yeah.
Cheyenne's a real ball ache. But we've checked into I know, you're paying the premium, but the Golden Forest in Sequoia Lodge, they
give you chocolate coins, and
they don't make you sign a tap. They hand you the form, and they literally just make you sign the bottom of it. They don't ask for anything else. Oh, they ask to see your passport. Fair, you're checking into a hotel. That's fine.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
But
right?
They literally just ask to see your passport and sign the bottom. And I've also checked into Sequoia Lodge as a normal guest, and there's been no queue at check-in. And so she's like, "Oh, don't worry about the form."
You think the form is just something to do?
Something to do? But I've also checked in at the Cheyenne when there's been no queue, and they've made me do the form before I can go up.
I don't understand.
It makes no sense.
What they actually get from doing it.
I wonder, now this is stupid and it's probably wrong, but because the Santa Fe and Cheyenne are like that bit further back, do you think they have different liability issues? Because the Newport Bay and the Sequoia Lodge, they're always the ones that are like, nah, whatever. But Santa Fe and Cheyenne are so anal about it.
Maybe it's the clientele. Because I mean, the thing is, if you're Big Daddy Warbucks, you're not staying at Santa Fe, right? You're not.
God, no.
It's below you. Two stars.
Oh, yeah.
2 stars.
Cowboys.
Whatever, mate. I mean, look, the other thing as well, for years that I went and stayed on property, and I'm sure you guys had this as well. You got your breakfast. You got your buffet breakfast. And the buffet breakfast, I mean, depending on the hotel. Well, actually, no. You know what? Even in like your Santa Fe's and your Cheyennes, the buffet breakfast is pretty good, right?
Make up a few Nutella rolls, bring them to the park. Jobs are good.
Well,
it's fine when it's included in your price. Yeah, you fuckers, you ruined it.
But that was a nice perk that you had. Now, most hotels outside of that either include a buffet breakfast or have one for a small premium. And I think when we was at Explorers, we didn't have the breakfast because I didn't have the breakfast because of the times the runs were. So they put on breakfast early, so they did obviously plan ahead for that. But to give you an idea, the 10K, we had to be at Disney Village by, I think it was 5:30 or 6.
Never.
So
you'll never see me there.
so the thing is, I don't, even though I know I'm going for a run, I can't face breakfast at 4:30 whenever they were serving it. Sod that, I'll eat after. So I didn't have the breakfast, but the breakfast, I think the breakfast was about €5 or €10, and they
not the €16 premium that outside hotels charge.
And the thing is, you had the same kind of things. You had pastries. You also had hot food items. So you had like fried bacon, sausage, and eggs, and all of that kind of stuff. Omelets. You had a good selection of food for a much cheaper price than you'd have been paying at a Disney hotel. So, now that perk's gone, that's another thing where it's like, well, this hotel's half the price and it includes breakfast. That might be something that gets people to look that way as well. I don't know. So like we've kind of got just used to now going to the supermarket, getting a box of croissants or getting some bread, whatever, and having, breakfast before we leave, or, taking a croissant to eat on the way into the park, whatever we decide to do. Rather than that, I personally think the Disney breakfasts are not worth what they charge now.
Oh no, absolutely not. No. Slap on a bucket when you charge €16 per person.
And we had the princess breakfast last time, and that was like about €60 or something. And I mean, that definitely was not worth. You weren't paying for the food, that's for sure. It's just something else to consider, that a lot of the hotels give, throw in for free or throw in for a small premium compared to what you'll pay at Disney. It's always little things that start adding up. Your hotel's one cost, and then actually when you start breaking it down and having to throw extra things on, all of a sudden, it's now another €100 more than it was before because I've had to put breakfast on top of it or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it does start to, and so that's what it comes down to me. Can I say in a hotel that's near enough to the train station to mean that it's not a long walk for anybody? What's the difference in cost? Are we talking €50 or are we talking €500?
Yeah.
All of these things then start to go, right, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? So yeah. And I mean, look, the thing is, as you say, you've been there so many times now that you can do this once and you'll know whether or not it works for you. The shopping centre, have you either of you ever been to the shopping centre?
No.
Nope.
It's a really good shopping centre.
Is that the one with pennies in it?
They call it Primark.
Yeah.
Or Primarché.
Primarché.
In my mind, like when I go to DLP, like I'm going for the parks. Like I can't be arsed going to a shop. I go to a shop centre here. I don't care.
You say that, but one of my favourite things to do when I go to France is to go to either FNAC, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but FNAC, or the big supermarket. I think it's Auchan in the shopping centre. Now, FNAC is a bit like a Best Buy, music video shop kind of thing. And also the supermarket has a massive film DVD selection as well. And what I love is looking at the alternative titles to films.
Okay.
So as an example, there was a film, I'm struggling to remember the name of it, but it was a spoof of Paranormal Activity. Do you know, like they do the scary movie films?
Mm-hmm.
They did one like that, but it was about paranormal activity. I want to say like the title was like, I don't know, like A Bump in the Night or something like that. Something stupid like that, right? The French title was Ghostbusters. And The Hangover had a really good
Brilliant.
one as well.
The French.
So, you get to do those kind of fun things. But also as well, like the McDonald's in there has a much better menu than the one in the village. Much more food options in the McDonald's there. And I mean, we've used it for shopping. So going back, why would you go shopping? Well, when you've gone there and the weather has changed and you weren't expecting it to be as cold as it was, and now you need some thermals, now you need like another jumper or something, and you don't want to just buy a Stitch hoodie at €60 because you need to have a hoodie.
Yeah.
Just buy something that, will just actually keep you warm or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say like people need to go there to go shopping because they miss it so badly. But there's an Apple shop there. What if your iPhone packs up? Apple Store, go and make yourself an appointment. It's just handy to have it on your doorstep. So normally we will just use it to go to the supermarket and get some food and drink. But yeah.
No, and that's fair. And like Kate said, like we've stayed in most of the on-site hotels. It's only the two that now aren't going to be open for however long that are left. Like I'm not opposed to it. My thing would probably be, like I said, I would want to be able to walk a reasonable distance after like a full day in the park. Like walking a half an hour after a full day in the park, absolutely, I could not be dealing with that. But like a reasonable walking distance. So I know there's a couple that are kind of only about 10 minutes, like that's fine. So I would be intrigued to kind of have a look, especially because everything that we've kind of heard is because of everything that's gone on and all the closures and all that kind of stuff. The prices for the DLP hotels have doubled, if not quadrupled, since reopening. So it'll probably be a while before we'll be able to afford to stay on site, even if it is just Santa Fe or Cheyenne.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing, this is what I've learned over the years. This is how I've booked some of my hotels. So I normally would go, if I'm staying off site, I would normally go through a third party like a bookings.com or hotels.com, whatever. When you go on those websites, you can look at the map and it will tell you where the hotels are. So you can see exactly where those hotels are. So if you look at the map, like where the Elise is, you can see it's directly across the road from the train station. So again, you're not just kind of hazarding the guess as to where it is, because if you type in like Val d'Europe or Disneyland Paris into some of those sites, some of the hotels they actually send you to that say they're in the area are actually, nearer central Paris than anywhere else. So you need to have a look on the map, but you can also, by looking at the map, you can then actually look and say, right, this is where the hotel is. How easy is it? What's the distance to walk to Disneyland Paris from here? And it normally tells you as well. It normally tells you like what the distance is between the amenities. So it normally tells you Disneyland Paris, the train station, the shopping center, and it will tell you how far away you are. So roughly how long it's going to take you to get to those places. So that's the other thing as well is, look on those maps to see where they actually are located, so that it is as near to the things you want as it actually is. It doesn't just hint that it might be, it actually tells you. And the other thing as well, going back to the rooms themselves, as you've both pointed out, the rooms aren't great. In a lot of these hotels, the rooms aren't great. You are literally paying for the convenience of staying where you are.
Yeah.
The Elise, and the reason why we used to stay there so a lot was because I think it's either a 3 or 4 star, but the beds were so comfortable. Almost too comfortable. Like it was a struggle to get out. You're going to Disneyland Paris, but you're like, but I could just another half an hour. So that's something else as well. And I've always said to people, like, the hotel room is a place you're going to see the least amount of time of your trip.
Yeah.
You may spend
ideally.
Well, yeah, you may spend 7-8 hours in there, but your eyes are going to be closed on most of them. So as long as it's clean and comfortable, I don't really mind where it is. But you can't really say that the hotel rooms on site are that nice or that comfortable. They're just they tick the box. Yeah,
they're very basic.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's everything for me.
Yeah, same. I'm gonna stop Nick there before he says anything else. Thanks so much for coming on, Nick. It's been a pleasure as always.
You could have just muted me. You could have just muted me at any time. It would have made a much shorter show.
True.
Yeah. Well, you did ask me on. We
did. Well, I think you invited yourself on.
Yeah, to be honest now. And we went, yeah.
Now I think back about it, yes, I kind of did, didn't I?
But that's all right.
But in all seriousness, if you do decide that you want to do that and you want some like hotels, recommendations, or have you stayed here, whatever, come to me. I would say that for all your listeners as well, but at the same time, I'm like, it might be a bit too much.
The official
reviews, people
booking
look
agent.
at reviews. Yeah. That's the other thing. Look, wherever you're going to book, look at reviews.
Also, looking at reviews is really funny sometimes.
That is
love it.
It's like the door was a push. I only like pull doors.
Honestly, Nick, do you want to plug your 10,000 Various podcasts?
Yeah, so I do a podcast with my daughter called Alice's Magical Podcast. Go and listen to that. If you want to listen to me talk more Disney stuff, Disney Parks and Beyond, I mean, saying that you should listen to it, Sinead is on there. And I just want to clarify to anyone that has already listened to that episode, because it had been out a few days before this one goes out. I wasn't kind of suggesting that I wouldn't want you to be my wife. It was just that I didn't want to, I kind of put myself in a very awkward position with what I said, and I realized that actually came across as insulting. So I didn't mean it like that at all. I just wanted to clarify that we've never been married, and but that's only anyway. He's
making this really vague comment, so everyone's like, huh, and has to go listen to it now.
You know what? It's because I'm trying to think of how I can get myself out of the hole I dug myself in, and all I've done is just dug a bit deeper. So whatever.
That's all right.
And also My Disney Life, which will be coming back in the next month or so with some new episodes. So go and listen to that. But I've always enjoyed coming on here. Thank you so much for letting me waffle with the Mickey Waffles, and keep up the great work. I absolutely love the show. I can't wait for Friday mornings because I've got a new episode. So thank you very much and keep it up.
Oh, Nick.
Jesus, Nick.
You're always such an ego booster when you're on. That's why we keep bringing you on.
It's like, I feel a bit down lately. Should we have Nick on?
Mr. Sunshine.
So thanks so much for listening, guys. If you want to hit us up on Instagram, it's at Mickey Waffles Pod, or on Twitter at Mickey Waffle Pod. The exact same handle sans the S. Also, hit us up on there if you've stayed off site, if you'd like to stay off site, if you want to stay on site, if you hate the Newport Bay, just let us know.
If you hate me,
I mean, sure.
I won't see the comments, so it's fine. I don't mind.
Very true, actually.
Fair. And like we always say, if you're listening on an Apple device, please give us a rating and a review. It helps us out loads. And as we mentioned, I feel like I've mentioned Sandy like 15,000 times, but all the links to Sandy will be in the show notes, along with everybody else that we have mentioned on the podcast, because we're just those lovely people.
Yep. So thanks so much for listening, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
This podcast is part of the After Dark Podcast Network.